This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Githuyu. It's Thursday, January 2nd. This is Africa 54. Malawi steps up its efforts to protect albinos by dispersing personal security alarms, but will the move work? Former Guinea-Bissau Prime Minister Umaru Sissoco Embalo is declared the winner of the nation's presidential election, but his opponent claims fraud and vows to contest the vote in court. In Africa 54 takes a closer look at the growth opportunities in South Africa for U.S. investors. Malawi is ramping up its efforts to protect residents with albinism by distributing personal security alarms. Albinism is a condition that causes whitening of the skin from lack of pigmentation. Authorities in the southeastern African nation are hoping the devices will prevent deadly attacks on albinos by people who believe their body parts have magical powers. However, the alarms have only a limited range, raising doubts about their effectiveness. Lamek Masina has more from Lilongwe.
Venda Chipirilo Laston was nearly abducted in March by 3 men pretending to be Malawi police officers. The men claimed to be searching houses of villagers suspected of keeping albino body parts, which are used across East Africa for black magic. Laston was saved when the men failed to produce identity cards and villagers handed them over to the real police.
I realized that I can be killed any day because of the way those people came. I was extremely terrified, and I realized that I am being stalked. So since that time, I still live in fear.
Albinos are targeted in ritual killings by people who believe their body parts bring good luck, power, and wealth. Police say at least 25 albinos have been killed in Malawi since 2014, and albino graves are often robbed, not of jewelry, but of bodies. Malawi authorities this year reacted to public pressure by distributing mobile personal security alarms to the country's estimated 10,000 albinos to help stop the attacks.
As government, we are trying to create a conducive environment for the persons with albinism. That's why we are distributing security gadgets for them to be protected and for them to be safe in their communities.
Malawi's albinos initially refused the alarms when first offered in May because authorities stamped them as being a gift from President Peter Mutharika. The alarm sound is activated when the wearer pulls a safety pin, but can only be heard within a range of about 100 meters.
You can agree with me that it's not that sound that can so alarming that people can say there is something happening. And it is not in our tradition as Malawians, in many cases, that when we hear the sound or the alarm, people start rushing to see what is happening over there.
Malawi police and local leaders are educating people to react to any alarms. Laston says he feels a little safer with the alarm on, but the limited range deters him from traveling to earn money, so he is struggling to put food on the table. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Lilongwe.
In East Africa, police say armed assailants killed 3 people early Thursday afternoon and injured 2 others in Kenya's Lamu County, a northern coastal region near its border with Somalia. The county is part of a large swath of territory where the Shabaab terrorist group carries out attacks to pressure Kenya into withdrawing its forces from Somalia. County police say armed men sprayed bullets into a passenger bus at close range, but did not say how many passengers were on the bus. Now to the high tension and drama at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. The situation outside the compound is much calmer on Thursday after Iranian-backed paramilitary groups protesting the U.S. airstrikes in Iraq withdrew from the immediate area on Wednesday. There had been 2 days of demonstrations as Tehran and Washington traded threats. U.S. officials say the strikes on the Kataib Hezbollah weapons storage facilities and command and control locations were in response to a rocket attack that killed a U.S. defense contractor last week. VOA's Arasha Basadi reports.
Top leaders of an Iranian-backed paramilitary group in Iraq ordered supporters to leave the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad after United States Marines arrived overnight from Kuwait aboard Apache helicopters. Helicopters circled the compound through daybreak, but militia leaders denied they were pressured to back down.
We don't care about the aircraft flying over our heads, nor about the news of America bringing more Marines. On the contrary, this shows psychological defeat and a big mental breakdown of the American administration.
The order to stand down comes after militia fighters and supporters stormed the embassy compound Tuesday. They broke glass and set fires in protest of a U.S. drone strike operation that targeted 5 Iranian-backed militia facilities in Iraq. The embassy attack highlights increased tensions between Washington and Tehran. Tuesday, President Trump tweeted, "Iran is orchestrating an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. They will be held fully responsible." On New Year's Eve, the president played down the idea of war.
I want to have peace. I like peace. And Iran should want peace more than anybody. So I don't see that happening. No, I don't think Iran would want that to happen. It would go very quickly.
Wednesday in Tehran, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei responded.
That gentleman again tweeted that Iran is controlling the situation in Iraq and the U.S. will respond. First, you can't do a damn thing. This has nothing to do with Iran. Second, be logical.
Analysts in the U.S. say the embassy attack is a calculated move to force the United States out of Iraq, one that could have dire consequences.
If the Iranians continue to try to push the United States out by further attacks on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, what we're likely to see is a much more severe U.S. response, either at the Iranian homeland or somewhere else where Kataib Hezbollah is vulnerable. So this is precisely the kind of situation that can lead to a wider war.
For now, the confrontation seems headed for de-escalation, but with tensions still high, it isn't clear how long that will last. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News, Washington.
Now for more on the simmering situation in Iraq and what action the Pentagon is taking in response to the attack on the U.S. Embassy, let's go to VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb, who is standing by live at the U.S. military headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. Hello, Carla.
Hi, Esther.
Now, what more can you tell us about this tense situation?
Well, Esther, I just got out of a briefing with the Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, and they said that they have sent a battalion of troops to Kuwait. That's about 750 soldiers to be there to help with U.S. protection, if needed, equipment protection and facility protection. We were asking about the status of the embassy. It's too early to tell the extent of the damage, but General Milley assured that the embassy is very strong and it is not going to be penetrated by any means necessary of what we saw over the last couple of days. He said he is fairly and highly certain that this embassy will not be overrun. And let's remember, when we talk about the embassy of the U.S. in Iraq, this isn't just a building. It's 100+ acres of land. And so he said that what we have seen with the protest and with the attacks that occurred, he said that this was merely a show, a demonstration for the cameras, and he is very confident that it was Kataib Hezbollah because he said that they were in uniform and they had a command and control area nearby.
Now, Carla, we've seen the U.S. use deterrence in the past to keep enemies in check. But I'm just wondering, are the Pentagon officials confident that this kind of attack is working and might be able to work in the Iraqi situation?
Well, Esther, I asked Secretary Esper that very question. Is deterrence working against Iran? You look at the United States soldiers in that area and Marines and airmen, there have been 11 attacks on bases that house U.S. and coalition forces in Iraq in the past 2 months. And so these are being blamed on Iranian-backed proxies. So when you look at it, it doesn't appear the deterrence is really working. And so would sending more troops make a difference, I asked. And he said, well, he doesn't know exactly how much it's going to take to have deterrence actually work. But he said that the additional troops are necessary to defend U.S. interests. And these troops will be based in Kuwait, like I said, and they will be able to be deployed wherever needed to protect interests and could take on additional missions as well after the situation calms down further at the Iraqi embassy.
Now, Carla, a lot of people have questions on how these protesters gained access to a protected zone. Maybe you can paint a little more picture of how the embassy location looks like, this green zone, and why these people were able to gain access to that area in such large numbers.
Well, yeah, so I've been to the green zone many times, and it is a protected area, but the U.S. portion of the green zone, like I said, it's not just a building, so people don't have to go through a bunch of different checks to get to a building. It's a massive complex, and so people can protest nearby. And so if they hurl a Molotov cocktail or something else with flames, there's a chance that they're going to hit some sort of area. But were U.S. Embassy employees really in a true danger? That's what we're still trying to find out, and the U.S. has so far said that no one was in danger, but they did try to evacuate people accordingly for precautionary measures. And they did send in additional Marines to help with the defense of the embassy. Let's keep in mind, though, U.S. Marines are not supposed to be the sole people defending this embassy. This is an embassy in Iraq, and the Iraqi government is supposed to be helping the United States defend this area. And Secretary Esper and General Milley have called time and again for Iraq to step up and do more to protect U.S. interests and the U.S. embassy. And Esper said just minutes ago that so far he hasn't seen sufficient moves forward on the part of the Iraqis.
Right, Carla, thank you very much. Carla Babb reporting live from the Pentagon for us tonight. Now, Guinea-Bissau's newly elected president, opposition leader and former Prime Minister Umaru Sissoco Embalo is celebrating his win on Thursday, even as his opponent seeks to have the results thrown out, citing electoral fraud. The nation's electoral commission said on Wednesday Embalo won by 8 percentage points over another former Prime Minister, Domingos Simões Pereira, of the ruling African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde.
Guinea-Bissau has a new president of the Republic from this January 1st, and it's me. Guinea-Bissau will stop being the country you have known, a country where everyone does just anything. That's over. That's over. Never again. Guinea-Bissau will be a respected country. There will be respect for each citizen, and no one will be excluded.
Despite Pereira's claim of electoral fraud, neither the election monitors or the United Nations envoy for West Africa, Mohamed Ibn Chambers, reported any fraud. Embalo succeeds incumbent President Jose Mario Vaz, whose tenure was marred by political infighting, an ill-functioning parliament, and corruption. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, we'll examine South Africa's drive to encourage investments in that country. You're watching Africa 54, and we'll be right back.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. A Dubai tech firm is hoping to crack China's strong grip on Africa's mobile market by manufacturing its own smartphone on the continent. The Mara Group is hoping the homegrown smartphone made in South Africa and Rwanda will compete against the might of China's Tecno, which sells more handsets to Rwandans than any other company. Since launching in the Rwandan capital Kigali on October 7th, the Mara Group employs 200 people and has since opened another sister production plant in South Africa. The Rwandan government has already embarked upon an ambitious plan to focus on information and communication technology to transform the country into a middle-income nation through full digitization. Next up, are robots part of your everyday life? If not, you probably haven't been sorting and packing gifts in an e-commerce warehouse in the weeks before Christmas. Amazon and its rivals are increasingly requiring warehouse employees to get used to working with robots. Without these fast-moving pods, robotic arms, and other forms of warehouse automation, retailers say they wouldn't be able to fulfill customer demand for packages that land on doorsteps as quickly as a day or two after you order them online. And while fears that robots will turn warehouses dark by replacing human workers haven't come to fruition, there are growing concerns that keeping up with the pace of the latest artificial intelligence technology is taking a toll on human workers' health, safety, and morale. And finally, in Hollywood, foodies are jumping straight to dessert for starters. Savory flavored gelatos such as Parmesan, bacon, avocado, and mozzarella are giving a new lease of life to traditional savory dishes and party snacks. Alongside pizza and spaghetti, gelato is historically associated with Italian cuisine. It's ice cream made with milk rather than cream in the Italian way. The frozen treat was first served at the Medici court in 1559. Today, the gelato industry in the United States currently generates $2 billion in revenues annually. And that's what's trending today.
In other news, in Kenya, the apuntia cactus, also known as the prickly pear, is spreading, destroying thousands of acres of grassland and making animals that eat it sick. Kenyans have developed a variety of methods to try to eradicate the problem plant, including breeding a microorganism that feeds on the cactus and turns it into food for humans. Mohammed Yusuf explains from Ilpolei, Kenya.
In central Kenya, locals say people are being driven away from their homes by a cactus.
Many people have moved out because their goats and cattle are dying. The people of Ilpoloi and Munashoi are fleeing to other places. Many have left.
The opuntia cactus has spread like a weed, killing off thousands of acres of grassland. Rancher Margaret Mamai says it has destroyed her livelihood.
If goats eat the cactus and its fruit, their eyes and mouth are affected. The most affected one is sheep. If it eats the cactus, there is no treatment. It dies. Now there is no place for them to graze.
Mamai is fighting back by breeding microorganisms that feed on the cactus. But Kenyan authorities say they will need to use laboratories to produce the quantities required to wipe out the problem plant.
That's what we are lacking, to produce those microorganisms so that they can be spread all over for them to reduce the punte. But it's a very slow method.
But it is not just microorganisms that can feed on the cactus. At this community center, the cactus fruit are crushed to make juice and wine. The seeds are dried and the oil is extracted for making cosmetics.
The health of human beings is good. The only problem is for the animals. The spines, it's stuck in the animals. But for the juice and the fruit, you can also eat the fruits, good for human use.
But getting enough consumers to see the cactus as a food source is a challenge. Meanwhile, for ranchers like Mamai, the opuntia is simply a weed to be destroyed. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Ilpoloi, Kenya.
In business news, Leila Fori, the CEO of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, is expressing optimism about the success of South Africa's investment drive to encourage financing in the country. At a recent conference in New York, South Africa sought to build a strong case with American investors. In an interview with VOA's Peter Clotty, Fori talked about the growth opportunities in her country for U.S. investors and what the government in Pretoria is doing to improve state-owned companies such as energy giant Eskom.
What we're seeing in the country is a collaboration and a strong partnership between public and private sector. And typically that bodes well for potential infrastructure investment projects. We're also seeing a very conscious and strong response by government to state-owned entities. So you may have seen in the press that our state-owned airline, South African Airways, is currently undergoing significant strikes. And as negative as that might look to the person in the street, it's actually a good thing because it indicates that SAA is doing something about their cost base. And so they're going to be retrenching and reducing staff headcount in order to improve their profitability and to turn their financial position around. And so we are seeing a number of very tangible steps towards resolving the state-owned enterprise issue that we're dealing with. In addition to SAA, we also the government is also looking to restructure Eskom, which is our electricity provider, into 3 different entities, and they're doing that to reduce the monopoly effect and also to break down the problem and make it more manageable. So I'm hopeful and I'm very excited with the prospect of turning these state-owned entities around. I spoke to a number of investors who were comparing the Eskom situation to the Genoa Bridge collapse in Italy, where they said none of the local investors had an appetite to invest because of the debt problems that the country was experiencing at the time in Italy. And they believe that Eskom creates a great potential for inbound investment and for potential yield pickup. And so the problems that the state-owned entities are experiencing right now create upside opportunity for an investor who believes that those state-owned entities are about to be restructured and to improve in their profitability.
Our thanks to VOA's Peter Clotty, who spoke with Leila Fori, the CEO of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Now, it's been said, the more you give, the richer you become. At least that's the philosophical idea behind the gift economy. It's an idea that appears to be catching on. For instance, at the famous Burning Man festival in the western U.S. state of Nevada, money has no worth. In his book, The Gift, Louise Hyde describes this model in detail. Here's Misha Gutkin.
The annual Burning Man festival is one of the largest and most unique examples of how a gifting economy works. The festival, which is a celebration of principles like radical self-expression, has become increasingly popular for its eclectic participants and its desert location. But there is no money exchanged at the festival. People share pretty much everything, which is why the creators of the new documentary Gift decided to make it part of their film. Technically, nothing can be sold or bought at the festival. Burning Man organizers cherish the so-called gift economy. It's an idea inspired by Louise Hyde's book, The Gift, that was written more than 3 decades ago.
In a gift exchange culture, there are many obligations. You have an obligation to give and an obligation to receive. So there's an obligation of reciprocity.
I mean, the idea is that the difference between a gift and a transaction is that a gift creates connection and relationship between people. A transaction kind of leaves things clean, right? You buy something and you walk away.
In the past decades, Hyde's book has become immensely popular among artists, writers, and musicians. Today, after Robin McKenna's documentary based on the book was released, the movie fans joined the group.
It's almost like a religion in this culture. It's kind of the idea of the economy kind of governs everything. We start learning about it in school and we kind of assume that the economy needs to keep growing and that those rules are kind of the central paradigm that governs all our decisions.
Consumer society assumes that you are a market actor and that you know yourself through your market exchanges. And if that's who you want to be, good luck to you.
In his book, Hyde references old traditions like those of Kwakiutl indigenous people that live on the western coast of Canada and practice potlatch, a gift-giving feast designed to eliminate excessive material values.
And the idea is you kind of give away all your wealth in order to gain status and to kind of back up your name in the culture. So Lewis talks about it in the book in a more historical way, something that's practiced in the Pacific Northwest. So I started looking into it and I found that it's actually a totally vibrant practice. It's happening now.
Hyde believes people need to recognize the value of a gift economy, which doesn't mean the system should replace the dominant economic model.
If you learn how to notice that there is gift exchange around us and valued, you'll begin to see it. So you just got to open your eyes.
Gifting as a concept can seem abstract, and it's not going to replace our capitalist economy anytime soon. But taking a step out of the familiar and into the new might feel like a refreshing gift to self at times. For Misha Gutkin in New York, Anna Rice, VOA News.
I'll try that. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.